The situation is dire, fellow Taoist Han. We should withdraw at once. Lan Yan urged through voice transmission, anxiety clear in her tone. A powerful restriction had long since been planted within her consciousness by Han Li. Should he perish, she would not survive either. Seeing his name newly inscribed upon the immortal slaying list, Han Li too felt an instinctive urge to leave Golden Void City without delay. Yet after a brief assessment, his heart settled like still water, and a decision was swiftly made. There is no need for alarm. Act as usual, he replied calmly, lifting his gaze toward the mission wall and adopting the same eager expression worn by the surrounding cultivators. Lan Yan hesitated for an instant, but an inexplicable sense of reassurance spread through her, as though Han Li's words carried a soothing force. The two strolled back and forth before the mission wall and the immortal slaying list, blending seamlessly into the restless crowd. Both were concealed beneath reincarnation palace masks. Unless a great encompassment cultivator scrutinized them closely, their true identities would remain hidden. Moreover, their momentary shock upon seeing Han Li's ranking had been fleeting, imperceptible to anyone not watching them at that precise instant. Having only just arrived in the city and drawn no prior attention, there should have been no one observing them. Yet Han Li had misjudged one thing. From deep within the immortal outlet, a pair of soul-searching eyes had locked onto them. The round-faced man from the Golden Pagoda. Those two are suspicious. He showed no outward reaction, but his spiritual sense rippled for an instant. No one else noticed, but it was obvious to me. If only I had seen their first reaction to the immortal slaying list, I could be completely certain. A strange light shimmered across the round-faced man's eyes as he continued to observe Han Li and Lan Yan in silence. After lingering a while longer, Han Li called to Lan Yan, and the two departed the immortal outlet, immediately flying toward a distant city exit. The round-faced man followed with a thoughtful expression, leaving the city so quickly. Just as I suspected, should I alert the others? No. Such a report yields too little reward. Linner's immortal acupoints are weak by nature. Curing him will require vast immortal origin stones. I must first confirm this man's identity. Only then will I report him as Han Li. With that resolve, the round-faced man transformed into an indistinct black shadow and gave chase. Han Li and Lan Yan soon exited Golden Void City. Han Li swept his sleeve, releasing a streak of azure light that wrapped around them both as they shot off into the distance. Though the chance of Shi-Chan's ink dragon flying boat being recognized was slim, Han Li refused to risk revealing it so close to the city. At his current speed, millions of kilometers vanished in the blink of an eye. Only after reaching a remote region did he finally come to a halt. Why stop here, fellow Taoist Han? We're not safe yet, Lan Yan asked, confusion etched across her face. We will continue shortly, Han Li replied with a faint smile. But first, something must be dealt with. He reached toward a nearby hill. Instantly, a colossal golden hand descended from the heavens, crushing the hill to dust and leaving behind a crater thousands of feet wide. From within the ruin, the round-faced man burst forth in terror, his aura fully exposed, an early high zenith cultivator. Did you truly believe I hadn't noticed you following us? Han Li snorted coldly. The golden hand vanished, then reappeared directly before the fleeing man, clenching down without mercy. His body exploded, but instead of blood and flesh, it scattered into hundreds of streaks of black light that shot off in all directions. Han Li raised an eyebrow. He could no longer detect a true body, as though the man had genuinely split himself into countless fragments. Nevertheless, his expression remained calm. With a thought, the mantra-treasured axis emerged, releasing golden ripples that swept across the void, freezing every streak of black light in place. His time law powers had fully recovered, stronger even than at their former peak. Golden lightning erupted as Han Li unleashed countless arcs, forming a vast lightning cage. A violent explosion followed, annihilating all the trapped black lights in an instant. A single anguished howl echoed briefly before vanishing into silence. Han Li let out a quiet breath of relief. The man had mastered shadow laws, which were inherently suppressed by lightning, and with the mantra-treasured axis reinforcing him, escape had never been possible. The golden ripples and lightning faded as Han Li withdrew his treasure. Who was that? A Heavenly Court spy? Lan Yan asked nervously. Have they already found us? Most likely, Han Li replied with a faint smile. But he won't be telling anyone. The man had been a living cultivator, not a clone, and his death had come too swiftly for any message to be sent. Still, caution dictated that they leave at once. Han Li summoned the ink dragon flying boat, and it vanished into the distance with the two aboard. Within Golden Void City, Immortal Lord Miao Fa stood in a tranquil courtyard, tending to her flowers. A maidservant in green hurried over. We have news regarding Han Li, esteemed holy envoy. Miao Fa lifted a pink blossom to her nose. Is it genuine, or yet another false alarm? The information comes from a spy planted within the heavenly court, the maidservant replied. He claims to possess a recording of his battle with Han Li and insists on showing it to you alone. Bring him to me, Miao Fa said, tossing the flower aside. Soon after, the round-faced man arrived, pale and seemingly gravely injured, yet unable to hide the excitement in his eyes. He recounted his encounter with Han Li in detail, then produced a black bead that displayed the recorded battle. That is him, Immortal Lord Miao Fa declared, eyes shining. His appearance may differ, but it is undoubtedly Han Li. Relief washed over the round-faced man. The price he had paid to confirm this identity had not been in vain. Where is he now? Miao Fa asked. I used a soul-splitting technique, he explained. An avatar remained here while my true body pursued and fought him outside the city. He believes he killed me before I could alert anyone. Only minutes have passed. You should still be able to track him down. He produced a map marking the battlefield. Well done, Miao Fa said with satisfaction. Lu Xin, take him away for his reward. Overjoyed, the round-faced man thanked her and departed. Moments later, two identical maidservants appeared silently at Miao Fa's side. Should we dispose of him to prevent leaks? One asked coldly. No, Miao Fa replied. Detain him for a few days. If informants learn we kill rather than reward them, no one will bring us information in the future. As you command, the maidservant said. Our priority now is Han Li, Miao Fa concluded. She swept her sleeve, blue light surging forth as she departed, leaving the quiet courtyard behind. Not far from Immortal Lord Miao Fa's secluded courtyard stood a modest restaurant. Within one of its booths sat the red-haired woman Meng, her posture relaxed. A dozen flagons scattered across the table before her, most already drained dry. Wine fumes lingered in the air. At that moment, a streak of blue light flashed past the window. So he's finally been found, Meng murmured, a faint, satisfied smile curving her lips as she followed the light with her gaze. Standing beside her was the hook-nosed man from the Golden Pagoda. His eyes lit up as he spoke in admiration. Mistress Meng's foresight truly knows no equal. Could it be that you already suspected Liang Fang was a spy from the Nine Origins Temple? I never confirmed it, Meng replied calmly. But the Golden Origin Immortal region belongs to the Nine Origins Temple. No matter how tight our defenses, infiltration is unavoidable. Instead of fretting over what can't be prevented, it's wiser to keep watch on Miao Fa. So long as she moves, she'll eventually lead us straight to Han Li. But doesn't that mean letting Miao Fa seize the initiative? The hook-nosed man asked uneasily. What if she captures Han Li before we arrive? Meng chuckled softly, confidence shining in her eyes. Han Li escaped the heavenly court for so long and even destroyed Mozi's physical body. Do you truly think he'll be caught that easily? Though still uneasy, the hook-nosed man said no more. Miao Fa has already gone far enough, Meng said, rising to her feet. With a sweep of her sleeve, red light burst forth, enveloping both of them as they shot into the sky in pursuit. Above a verdant mountain range in the Golden Origin Immortal region, a golden lightning array flickered into existence. Within it stood Han Li and Lan Yan. After departing Golden Void City, they had traveled for some time aboard the Ink Dragon flying boat. Han Li then stowed it away, concealed his aura with the Myriad Acupoint Tranquility technique, and continued on foot. With his current physique, moving on foot was scarcely slower than flying. From there, he activated his lightning teleportation array nearly 20 times in succession, finally reaching this remote location. They were now unimaginably far from Golden Void City, and Han Li had exhausted every means to erase his trail. Turning back toward the distant direction of the city, Han Li's gaze grew thoughtful. With the heavenly court pursuing him so relentlessly, using an interregion teleportation array to reach the greater Golden Origin Immortal region was simply too dangerous. It seemed he had no choice but to heed Worm 3's advice and focus on advancing his cultivation first. He was already at peak high zenith stage, and all preparations for breaking through to the great encompassment stage were complete. Once he advanced, his strength would leap to an entirely new level, greatly increasing his chances of rescuing Jin Tong from the Nine Origins Temple. Having resolved himself, Han Li surveyed his surroundings. According to the map he possessed, this was the Oasis mountain range in the northwest of the region. Remote, barren of rare spirit materials, and devoid of powerful demon beasts, it was quiet, secluded, and ideal for seclusion. He descended onto a hidden mountainside and swept his sleeve, releasing sword chi that carved a cavern into the rock. After some swift modifications, a proper cave abode was formed. Han Li then laid down layer upon layer of restrictions, covering the cave and the surrounding dozens of kilometers. Each restriction carried different law powers, capable of delaying even a great encompassment cultivator for some time. Fellow Taoist Lan, I'll be entering seclusion here. You may rest as well, Han Li said. Lan Yan nodded silently. Han Li entered the secret chamber, while Lan Yan settled into another room. Inside, Han Li erected a crimson restriction sealing the chamber completely, then released the Essence Fire Child. Its flames were still largely silver, but streaks of white had begun to emerge, and the law fluctuations it emitted were far stronger than before, a sight that pleased Han Li greatly. The Essence Fire Raven had been refining the white fire bead all this time, and the results were becoming evident. I'll be in seclusion for quite some time, Han Li said coldly. I won't be able to supervise Lan Yan. Watch her for me. If she attempts anything improper, you may kill her. The Essence Fire Child nodded and streaked into the crimson restriction as a flash of silver light. Lan Yan showed no signs of treachery, but this breakthrough was far too critical to allow the slightest risk. If only Weeping Soul had finished refining Ghost King Wu Chao's power, Han Li would have felt far more at ease. Still, the Essence Fire Child should be more than sufficient. With that settled, Han Li sat cross-legged and began to meditate. Nearly half a day passed in the blink of an eye. When he opened his eyes again, his state had reached absolute perfection. He summoned a white incense burner, holding a 3-inch stick of silver incense. Once lit, pale mist drifted through the air, carrying a subtle fragrance. This soul-condensing incense nourished the soul and greatly improved the odds of breaking through to the great encompassment stage. Next, Han Li produced 3 jade vials. One contained the true profound pill gifted by Taoist Shi, the decisive key to his breakthrough. The other 2 held a golden spirit liquid and 3 green pills, both painstakingly acquired for this moment. Han Li first took the golden spirit liquid, letting a few drops slide down his throat. Radiant golden light erupted from his body as his time law powers churned violently. The mantra Treasured Axis, Time-Severing Torch, Clear Time Vial, Eastern Vicissitudes Divine Tree, and Illusory Dawn Hourglass emerged one after another, revolving swiftly around him, eyes blazing. Han Li swallowed one of the green pills and closed his eyes, circulating the great 5-elemental illusion mantra. The true profound pill remained untouched, reserved for the final moment. Golden radiance surged brighter and brighter, and overwhelming time law fluctuations shook the secret chamber violently. Elsewhere in the cave abode, Lan Yan jolted awake, staring toward the secret chamber in shock. Above a swamp deep within the Golden Origin Immortal region, a blue streak descended and halted, revealing Immortal Lord Miao Fa and her 2 maidservants. Esteemed Holy Envoy, Han Li's spiritual chi trail ends here, one maidservant reported, holding a translucent blue basin. Green specks of light within it traced a path to this point before vanishing abruptly. It seems he concealed his aura from here onward, Miao Fa said, brows knitting. The mirror water basin can no longer track him, the maidservant added. Very well, Miao Fa replied, waving them aside. She opened her mouth and released a sphere of blue light. Countless translucent threads converged, forming a vertical blue eye the size of a millstone. Rings of light pulsed within it as it scanned the surroundings. At first, Miao Fa was confident, but as the search continued, disbelief crept across her face. Impossible. Even a mid-great encompassment cultivator couldn't fully evade my Water Emperor Divine Eye. How could Han Li hide so completely? In truth, had Han Li continued traveling with his immortal power, concealment would have been futile. But from this point on, He had suppressed his aura with the myriad acupoint tranquility technique, while Lan Yan was hidden within the flower branch domain, leaving no discernible traces. Miao Fa searched only for residual spiritual fluctuations, overlooking this possibility. Even so, her divine eye eventually detected faint traces left behind by immortal treasures such as the azure bamboo cloud's warm swords. The trail was weak and intermittent, forcing her to proceed slowly and cautiously. Far behind, Meng and the hook-nosed man followed with growing irritation. Yet lacking any tracking skills of their own, they could only endure and rely entirely on immortal Lord Miao Fa. Within the cave abode, hidden deep in the Oasis mountain range, Han Li continued his closed-door cultivation, pressing toward the great encompassment stage without pause. 3 fleeting years slipped by like drifting clouds. Golden radiance within the secret chamber grew ever more intense, forcing its way outward despite the dense layers of restrictions he had laid down. Waves of formidable time law power surged through the cave abode, rendering cultivation impossible for Lan Yan. With nothing else to do, she could only wait in silence for Han Li to emerge from seclusion. She had long since guessed his purpose, yet her heart was tangled with uncertainty. She did not know what Han Li truly planned. But if he succeeded in stepping into the great encompassment stage, it would undoubtedly spell disaster for the Nine Origins Temple. At the same time, such a breakthrough would greatly increase both their chances of survival. Moreover, once Han Li reached that realm, her usefulness to him would sharply decline. Given his temperament, there was a real possibility he might release her altogether. If he failed, however, she would remain trapped in this perilous existence, endlessly fleeing danger, with no idea when freedom would finally arrive. With such thoughts weighing upon her mind, even she could not tell whether she wished for his success or failure. At that moment, a thunderous boom erupted from within the secret chamber. A violent surge of law power swept through the cave abode like a raging tide, tearing apart nearly half of the internal restrictions. Lan Yan was struck head-on by the shockwave and only came to a halt after smashing into a stone wall. She hurriedly turned her gaze toward the secret chamber. The golden light there had already faded, and her heart sank as she let out a soft, helpless sigh. So in the end, I still hoped he would succeed. Inside the chamber, Han Li sat with tightly furrowed brows, frustration etched across his face. Just as Lan Yan had surmised, his breakthrough had ended in failure. Fortunately, no backlash followed, yet the cause of his failure eluded him. He possessed over 200 time law threads, a quantity comparable to that of an ordinary great encompassment cultivator. He had opened 395 immortal acupoints. His physical body was exceptionally strong, and his soul far surpassed that of a peak high zenith cultivator, due to his spirit refinement technique. By all accounts, the conditions were perfect. The breakthrough should have been effortless. After careful reflection, Han Li concluded that the issue most likely lay with his time law threads. Everything had progressed smoothly at first, but midway through the attempt, the threads had suddenly fallen into chaos, throwing his immortal spiritual power into disarray and ruining the breakthrough. Could it be that I still lack enough time law threads? If that was the case, there were no other obvious shortcomings. The fastest way to acquire more threads was to refine time attribute treasures with the great 5 elemental illusion mantra. Yet such items were exceedingly rare. Even then, with more than 200 threads already, he had no idea how many more would be required. Suddenly, realization struck him, and he slapped his forehead in self-reproach. How could I forget the Eon Divine Lamp? If he could refine it into time law threads, it would surely suffice. The lamp remained unlit, and despite countless attempts since leaving Tai Sui Immortal Manor, he had been unable to reignite its flame. Even so, it continued to emit formidable time law fluctuations. Han Li immediately circulated the great 5 elemental illusion mantra. His 5 time attribute law treasures appeared around him, their powers intertwining and compressing into a thick golden ring of light. At his command, the ring tightened further and released a powerful suction as it moved toward the Eon Divine Lamp. The golden ring enveloped the lamp and spun rapidly, attempting to tear the time law power free. Yet, no matter how it strained, the lamp remained completely unmoved. Is its caliber simply too high to refine? After persisting for some time, Han Li withdrew the ring without surprise. He had encountered the same situation before with the golden plate from the True Mantra Sect ruins. Clearly, the Eon Divine Lamp was of similar rank, perhaps even slightly more manageable, as he could at least exert some control over it. With a bitter smile, he stowed the lamp away. After brief consideration, he retrieved a Reincarnation Palace mask and issued a mission to purchase time attribute immortal treasures. With his vast reserves of immortal origin stones, cost was no concern. Beyond the Reincarnation Palace, he had no other channels to rely upon, so all he could do was wait. Once finished, Han Li resumed his cultivation. Searching for any other hidden flaws, nearly half a year passed in a blink. Within the secret chamber, Han Li sat cross-legged, bathed in golden light as manifestations of his 5 time attribute law treasures hovered around him. The chamber rippled endlessly with time law fluctuations. Suddenly, his eyes flew open. The manifestations vanished into his body, and he disappeared from the chamber. In the next instant, he appeared directly behind Lan Yan. Before she could react, his hand closed around her throat as golden runes coiled around her like spirit serpents, locking her in place. "My apologies, fellow Taoist Lan." As his voice faded, a deafening explosion shook the heavens. The mountain housing the cave abode shattered apart, exposing everything beneath the open sky. Han Li looked up, still gripping Lan Yan, and saw a crystalline lotus-shaped throne suspended high above. Seated upon it was Immortal Lord Miao Fa, resting her cheek on her hand as she gazed down at him with open disdain, her mid-great encompassment aura pressed down like a mountain. Despite her casual posture, the pressure she exuded surpassed even that of Chi Mozi. Behind her stood 2 identical maidservants at the early high zenith stage, one holding an embroidered umbrella, the other a peacock feather fan. "So this is the man who defeated Shi Chan and Chi Mozi," Miao Fa scoffed. "To think you'd sink so low as to use a helpless woman as a shield, how utterly disappointing." "That hardly seems fair," Han Li replied calmly. "Fellow Taoist Lan is neither frail nor defenseless. No matter how I pressured her, she refused to submit and even tried to take her own life more than once. I had no choice but to place restrictions on her. If I use her as a shield now, it's only because I face an enemy far stronger than myself." Lan Yan knew he was lying to protect her reputation, and a mix of guilt and gratitude stirred within her heart. If she was foolish enough to be captured, then she deserves death, Miao Fa said coldly, casting Lan Yan a glance. Frost instantly crept across her face and spread until her entire body was sealed in blue ice. Han Li flicked a finger, releasing silver flames to counter the frost as he retreated. Yet he had barely withdrawn 1,000 feet when a massive shadow loomed overhead. The embroidered umbrella descended from above. He dodged swiftly, but the umbrella-wielding maidservant danced gracefully atop it, adjusting its path to remain directly above him. Meanwhile, the fan-wielding maidservant swept over to Lan Yan, brushed a sleeve across her body, and instantly dispelled the frost before tossing her toward Immortal Lord Miao Fa. Lan Yan fell to her knees. Lan Yan pays her respects to Immortal Lord Miao Fa. "Where is Lan Yuanzi?" Miao Fa asked coolly. "Is he alive or dead?" At the mention of his name, grief immediately filled Lan Yan's face. Lan Yan's expression already spoke of Lan Yuanzi's fate. Immortal Lord Miao Fa snorted coldly. "If not for my friendship with your master, you would already be dead. At least you showed some backbone and did not disgrace the 9 Origins Temple. Get up." Lan Yan rose at once and moved obediently behind the crystalline throne, her gaze filled with worry as it followed Han Li. After flinging Lan Yan aside, the fan-wielding maidservant swept her fan and gave chase, fierce azure winds roaring forth toward Han Li. Already forced to dodge the descending umbrella, Han Li chose not to evade the gale. Instead, he plunged straight into it while activating his reversal true axis, intending to ride the wind and escape. He knew full well that he was no match for this woman and had no intention of standing his ground. Yet the instant the azure wind wrapped around him, his body turned strangely light, drifting upward against his will instead of fleeing. At that moment, the embroidered umbrella descended, releasing a terrifying suction that swallowed him in an instant. Rune-etched chains dropped from within, binding him tightly to the umbrella's shaft before it snapped shut around him. Sealed inside, all immortal spiritual power within Han Li was locked away. He could not summon even a trace of strength. The maidservant beckoned casually. The umbrella shrank to half its size and flew back into her arms. She hugged it to her chest as her twin returned to her side. Lanyan stared in disbelief, unable to accept how easily Hanli had been captured. So this is the pathetic high zenith stage brat who defeated Shi-chan? Immortal Lord Miao Fa scoffed. Just then, the umbrella rippled and bulged faintly, as if something inside were struggling. Don't bother. Even an average great encompassment cultivator couldn't escape our holy envoy's heavenly entrapment umbrella, the maidservant sneered, then shrieked in alarm and hurled it away. Smoke curled from a small burned hole in the umbrella. From it bloomed a rainbow flame like a flower in full bloom. The flame surged upward as a tiny silver figure shot out, instantly transforming into a massive silver fire raven. The raven spread its wings, and scorching flames rained down like meteors toward Immortal Lord Miao Fa and her attendants. The fan-wielding maidservant desperately swept her fan, dispersing the flames, while Han Li burst free and fled into the distance, the Essence Fire Raven following close behind. An Essence Fire Raven that's devoured Rainbow Fire Pill Sand. How rare! Immortal Lord Miao Fa mused calmly. You do have some tricks, but you truly believe this will let you escape? She rose leisurely to her feet and brought her palms together. Her hands turned translucent like ice, white mist spilling from her lips. In an instant, thin fog spread across tens of thousands of kilometers, freezing the entire space into her spirit domain. Thousands of kilometers away, Hanli sensed the sudden plunge in temperature and recalled the Essence Fire Raven before accelerating at full speed. Even so, an enormous wall of ice erupted ahead, blocking his path. He roared and unleashed the heavenly baleful purgatory arts, smashing his fist into the wall. White starlight exploded on impact, carving a vast ring-shaped crater across the ice. Yet the wall endured. Before he could strike again, snowflakes drifted down. Immortal Lord Miao Fa appeared atop the wall in a flash of white light. As her foot touched down, white radiance spread and the damaged wall restored itself in moments. You cannot escape my spirit domain. Surrender now, and you may yet avoid harsher punishment, she said coldly. Han Li retreated without replying, activating reversal true axis while forming hand seals to summon a lightning teleportation array. Before it could form, a massive hexagonal ice crystal appeared overhead. 6 brilliant blue beams refracted downward, forming 6 translucent walls that sealed him in. Glacial chi flooded the space, extinguishing the lightning around his body and severing his connection to the world. Silver light then spread across the walls, turning them into 6 mirrors. Each reflected Han Li, but with different expressions: cold, smiling, indifferent. Activating his infernal devilish eyes, Han Li saw no vitality within them. They were illusions. Reassured, he gathered all his power and struck one mirror with a mighty punch. At once, all 6 reflections moved, fists raised. As his blow landed, 6 arms shot out from different directions, smashing into his body. Agonizing pain tore through him. Frost crept over his flesh as his spiritual power circulation nearly froze solid. With no choice left, Han Li unleashed both his arts and true spirit bloodlines, transforming into a towering devilish deity with 3 heads and 6 arms. His 3 heads roared as he spun like a top, 6 fists striking the 6 mirrors at once. 6 thunderous booms rang out. Cracks spread across the mirrors, and hope surged in his chest, only for blue light to flash and restore them instantly. 6 devilish reflections appeared and struck together. A storm of punches hammered Han Li, nearly shattering his bones. One blow to the back of his head almost knocked him unconscious. At last, the assault stopped. Han Li reverted to his human form and slumped to the ground, utterly defeated. He dared not strike again and searched desperately with his infernal devilish eyes, yet found no escape. Outside the mirrors, Immortal Lord Miao Fa watched his futile struggle with amusement. "Cease resisting," she sneered. "Your fate is sealed." Han Li ignored Immortal Lord Miao Fa entirely, focusing instead on the 6 ice mirrors as he circulated his cultivation to resist the biting glacial chi that seeped into his body. As his gaze swept over the mirrors, a sudden insight struck him. Raising his hand, he summoned the Essence Fire Raven and immediately noticed that while the mirrors clearly reflected his own figure, the Raven left no trace within them. So these Ice Law mirrors cannot manifest fire attribute existences. Han Li realized inwardly. With a calm expression, He extended a finger. The essence fire raven dissolved into a layer of blazing flame that wrapped around his arm, then shot forward from his fingertip like a fiery auger, drilling straight into one of the ice mirrors. Instantly, the mirror began to melt, its surface rippling like disturbed water. That essence fire raven is indeed formidable, but it won't be enough to free you. Immortal Lord Miao Fa snorted coldly as she prepared to strike from above. At that very moment, the surrounding space trembled. A faintly warm breeze swept in from the southeast, clashing violently with the frigid air. Immortal Lord Miao Fa halted at once and looked toward the horizon, where a blazing red figure approached atop a fiery cloud. Wherever the figure passed, the clouds burned crimson, and the freezing temperature plummeting over the region rapidly began to rise again. Resentment and disdain flickered in Immortal Lord Miao Fa's eyes as the figure came to a stop roughly 10,000 feet away. Well now, fancy meeting you here. Immortal Lord Miao Fa, Meng said, feigning surprise. I'm in pursuit of a fugitive on the immortal slaying list. Have you happened to see him? There is only a fugitive of our Nine Origins temple here, and he has already been apprehended, Immortal Lord Miao Fa replied icily. If you're searching for someone wanted by the Heavenly Court, you'd best look elsewhere. Coincidentally, they're one and the same, Meng said with a broad smile. Since you've caught him, just hand him over to me. I'll make sure the Heavenly Court acknowledges your contribution and rewards the Nine Origins Temple accordingly. I captured him myself? Immortal Lord Miao Fa countered without yielding. Naturally, I'll take him back for interrogation first. After that, I'll hand him over. Oh? You're certain you've captured him? Meng asked, her smile turning sly. Immortal Lord Miao Fa's brows furrowed as she sensed movement. Behind the wall of ice, countless red fire ants burst from the ground, crawling over the 6 silver mirrors surrounding Han Li. Trails of scorching heat burned deep grooves into the ice, and a violent clash between fire and ice erupted. One by one, the ants' flames were extinguished by the overwhelming cold, freezing them solid after advancing only an inch or two. Yet their numbers were vast beyond measure, and together they formed an unstoppable tide. Trapped within the mirrors, Han Li remained unaware of the external chaos. He continued forcing the essence fire raven deeper into the ice, even as the glacial chi numbed his limbs. Finally, a dull boom echoed as the fiery silver drill pierced completely through the mirror. Without hesitation, Han Li threw a full-powered punch. A sharp crack rang out as all 6 mirrors shattered simultaneously, releasing him from confinement. The instant he was free, he was greeted by the sight of innumerable fire ants swarming toward him. Not knowing the cause and unwilling to linger, Han Li leapt into the air to flee. At that moment, Immortal Lord Miao Fa descended from above, forcing Han Li to hastily activate his reversal true axis to evade her strike. Behind her, Meng pursued closely, laughing as she called out, "Since you couldn't hold on to him, I suppose we'll see who gets him first." Golden flames erupted from beneath Meng's fiery cloud, accelerating her explosively. In an instant, she overtook Immortal Lord Miao Fa and flew directly alongside Han Li, 2 mid-great encompassment cultivators chasing him at once. Han Li could only curse his terrible luck. Meng suddenly reached out, and a long fiery dragon burst from her palm, lunging at Han Li with jaws wide open. Scorching heat poured forth, warping the surrounding space. Han Li felt suffocated, as though an invisible barrier had appeared ahead, forcibly slowing him. Just as the dragon's flames were about to engulf him, silver fire surged from Han Li's shoulder, flowing over his arm. He swung his sleeve, and a massive fire raven's head erupted forth, clamping down on the dragon's head in a single bite. The fiery dragon was decapitated instantly. Its body recoiled, while its severed head thrashed violently in the raven's beak, spraying flames in all directions. Han Li felt as though his entire arm were burning alive, but he clenched his teeth and endured. Meng's eyes shone brightly. An essence fire raven that's devoured rainbow fire pill sand. I knew coming here was the right choice. She closed in at once. Han Li felt as though he'd been plunged into a cauldron of boiling oil. His blood roared through his veins, his skin flushed crimson, and his eyes turned bloodshot as his once sluggish immortal spiritual power began circulating at a terrifying speed. A young man should be hot-blooded and reckless, Meng laughed. Come, let me heat things up even more. As she formed a hand seal, the surrounding temperature surged violently. Beneath Han Li, a ball of radiant white light emerged, within which appeared a three-legged golden crow, wings spread wide and flames raging. Engulfed within the inferno, Han Li was like a pill being refined in a furnace, unable to escape. Only the fiery silver armor formed by the Essence Fire Raven protected him from being reduced to ashes, though the pain remained unbearable. Just then, a clear cry rang out. A colossal ice phoenix materialized from thin air, sweeping forward amid shrieking glacial winds. The white fiery sphere retaliated instantly, unleashing a blazing tornado to collide with the phoenix. A vast cloud of vapor exploded outward, shrouding thousands of kilometers and sharply dropping the surrounding temperature. So the Nine Origins Temple truly intends to oppose our heavenly court, Meng said coldly. I had already apprehended him, yet you broke the rules. Immortal Lord Miao Fa replied calmly. Don't blame me for striking back. In that case, why don't we settle this right here? Meng smiled. Winner takes him, loser leaves empty-handed. I was about to suggest the same, Immortal Lord Miao Fa answered. As the two spoke, the turmoil within Han Li's body gradually subsided, and much of the scorching heat faded under the Ice Phoenix's influence. Even so, Han Li did not relax in the slightest. He knew with absolute clarity, this moment was his one and only chance to escape.